Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to do simple event handling in JavaFX. So an event is a user action that occurs on the UI, and some of the events we want to react to in our code, so we add a event handler that gets executed when the action occurs. So I have a FXML file here, and I have a simple JavaFX application that has the start method. Inside the start method, I load the FXML file, I load the scene graph and pass the root of the scene graph to the scene, and then I set the scene on the stage and show the stage. So the first thing that I want to do is add a controller. So I create a new class, I call this welcome controller to be consistent with my FXML file name. So I call this welcome controller, and that matches the welcome.fxml file. This is just a plain class. It doesn't inherit from any other superclass. It doesn't have any special attributes or annotations on it yet. So this is just a plain class. There are two ways I can set the controller. One way is I can set it in code. So when I call the loader here, I can do loader.set controller, and then I can pass the controller in here, welcome controller. This can be useful when the controller should have shared access with other controllers of other scenes. So maybe I want to add a data model to it. I can pass it in here, the constructor, and the same data model I can add and pass to other controllers. So all of the controllers share the same data model. This is one way of setting it. Another way is, for a simple way like this, I can set it in the FXML file. So here I add a attribute fx controller, and I add the fully qualified name of the controller that should handle the user events on this scene graph. So in this case, we'll just call the default controller, but that is another way of setting it. For our case, we just use the default constructor, so this is completely fine. I add a few child controls here. So first thing is I add a text field, and I give it an ID so I can access it later for my code. That's the FX ID. I call this text input. Then I add a button, and the button will show the name click me, and I add an event handler here. So this is on action, and here I define the method on this controller that gets called when this button is clicked. So I have to always add the # before, and I call the method on button clicked. So I will have to define this method inside the controller class later. The last thing that I add is a label, and I also give it an FX ID. And these are all the three controls that I have. So the first thing that I do is I take the text input, which is a text field, and I define a private member variable with the same name. So this is a text field called text input. I have to import the text field class, and another important thing is I have to add the FXML annotation to it. Then I have to do the same with the label. So to private label name, I import the label, and now I have the two elements that I defined here, and I can access them in the class. The important thing is that the identifier here and here has to match the FX ID that I defined in the FXML file. So here I have text input and label name. The last thing that I add is the method for the event handler. So on button clicked without the #. So I do private void one button clicked, and here as well I add the FXML annotation. And what this button will do is it'll take the text that was entered on the text field. So I call text input get text. I set the text to the label. And the last thing I do is I clear the text field. So whenever this button gets clicked, it'll take the text that was entered in the text field. Then it'll pass that text to the label and set it on the label. And last, it will clear the text field. Now I want to make sure that whatever UI controls I add here, that I have them imported. So in this case, I only have imported the label. I have not yet imported the button and the text field. So let's import the button class and the text field class. The controller is set, so like I said, we can set it here in FXML, or whenever we load the FXML, we could set it here. Now let's run this application. So I have my text box, I have the button, and the label is initially empty, so we cannot see it. So I enter hello, I type click me, and the text that I entered gets set on the label. If I enter anything else, and I click it again, this gets set as well. I hope this gives you some idea how to handle user input and how to deal with controllers and associate controllers with controls in the FXML file. Thank you for watching.